Let's see. Hopefully it. Do we have to redo all of that?
Okay, we're so early into it.
It was me. I think that the live hadn't started on YouTube. We were recording on my software, but not on YouTube.
Oh, okay,
So
gotcha.
I think we're live now. So back from the top. All right, perfect. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I see it. All right,
All right. So to start back
we get to do
over,
a do-over.
we were far into it. We were having a good conversation. All right, so today is our 12th episode of our live stream, and I'm still figuring out how to work the live stream software, obviously. Today we have special guest Hiep Hong, who just won first place in the macroalgae aquascaping contest at ReefStock Denver. That was a competition that Pisces USA sponsored. We're very excited to have you on the stream, Hip. Uh,
Thanks for having me. Hi, everybody.
was this the first macro algae aquascaping competition?
Yeah, so I think it's the first one that I've heard of or ever seen before. So we should go with that. I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, I was saying earlier, I'm not sure if there has been another one. I mean, surely there may have been, but I've never heard of someone. So I'm okay just taking the the claim to fame that this is our first one.
Yeah, we'll do that until we get called out.
So someone explains to us, no, there's a very famous one that's being done in Singapore or something, right? All right.
No, I'm pretty sure it is the first of its kind. Yeah.
So before we dive into the competition, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your background? I know if someone's on and they don't know who you are, they should fix that immediately because you are incredibly talented.
Thank you. So my name is Hiep Hong. I'm a professional aquascaper from Texas. Currently here at Aquarium Design Group as my full-time gig. And yeah, it's been a dream. I've been competing since about 2016, but I've been aquascaping, we could say around 2010 or so. And yeah, uh, I've entered a lot of contests, got a lot of dubs under my belt. I think the most significant one would be number four in the IAPLC. That was in 2018, International Aquatic Plant Layout Contest. That's hosted by ADA, and that's what I'm most known for.
So number four, how many people competed in that?
It was close to 2,000 entries that year from 67 different countries.
67 different countries, and you were number four. So it's not like 4 out of 5, 4 out of 2,000.
Yeah.
Says there's a big echo on your end. Let's see if I cut my volume down a little bit, if that helps. I'm not hearing it, so it's got to be my computer that's doing it. Uh, let me see if that helps. Okay. So, what first got you into aquascaping?
So my whole life, we've always had some sort of fish tank in the house. Even when I was a toddler in Vietnam, we had bowls with little those metal frame tanks. We had one of those. But in high school, I was really into monster fish. So I was keeping like big catfish, arowanas, giant predatory fish of that sort. And then I downgraded, well, I wouldn't say downgrade, downsized to shrimp tanks. Um, so I got my first cherry shrimps in 2009 or 2010, somewhere around there. And through the shrimp hobby, I discovered moss and planted tanks, and then it just all snowballed from there. And so after doing that a couple of years, yeah, I decided to enter my first aquascaping contest in 2016. And yeah, I guess the rest is history.
I'm trying to mute my mic to see if it helps with the echo. Uh, yeah, so you
Oh,
like the big arowanas and the predator fish and stuff. Like obviously that's something that high school kids are going to be really into. Uh,
yeah, naturally, right? Like it's just a cool thing to do.
when did you say you first did your first aquascaping?
Um, so I started aquascaping around 2010, I guess. And that's also around the time that I discovered aquarium design group, which I think that being around this environment, talking to Mike and Jeff all the time, and just having the resources that this place does, I think really helped me in my journey. And so, yeah, from 2010, but my first contest was 2016.
Sorry, I'm getting feedback via text message on the audio, so I'm trying to fix it
Okay.
as we're
Yeah, let's
talking.
work that out.
All right, so talking about macroalgae in particular, when was the first time you started doing macroalgae?
So that one is a fairly recent venture. I think it was like late 2023. I was in Canada visiting my uncle, and Alex, she sent me back home with a bag full of red gracilaria. And so I had always thought about trying saltwater, but once she gave me that bag, it was like, okay, I'm committed. So when I got back to Texas that year, put together my first saltwater tank, and it was quite successful. And so I've been doing it ever since. But it's only been about a year and a half actually since I started.
So I'm primarily a saltwater person, and when we first met,
Hmm.
I think you were doing something at AGA, a terrarium,
Yeah,
and
yep, I
and
did it orchid terrarium. It was really cool.
yeah, and I remember just being really impressed and in awe by how into it you are. Like I tell everybody the story, but I had no clue who you were. I didn't realize I should know who you were, but you were just so uh emotional isn't quite the right word, but awestruck by your own creation. And I see artists sometimes where they like poo poo their own work when they're like, ah, oh, it's not that great. And I just love the fact that after you do something, and you did it for this competition too, you actually like sit and enjoy what you created. And I think that that's like watching you enjoy what you created, I think is part of the art for me as well.
Thank you. I was actually, yeah, I was definitely deeply touched there at AGA. It was a really significant moment for me because I almost wasn't able to make it uh, to this to the event um, financially. And just by some miracle, I was able to pull everything together. Another thing was that my dad was there with me. It was the first time he got to see me in my element, got to see me around my peers and my friends. And um, I had some of the closest friends with me there in the industry, just all at that place. And so that was really deeply emotional for me to have those circumstances all come together. But then, of course, the layout itself, I was really touched by it too. And I think I told you, I mean, I'm a Buddhist, but lately spiritually, I've come to kind of see all religions and all beliefs in some sort of way being interconnected. And I think I did tell you like that night, I really felt like when I was sitting on the ground staring up at that orchid, I felt like I was staring into the face of God. So it really did feel like a very spiritual moment for me. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely felt spiritual watching you as well. Like I think that's probably the better word, not emotional, spiritual. It was profound, that's for sure. And ever since then I've just been like, I love Hip. He's the best.
I'm really happy to hear you say that. Like I really was in my own world at the moment, and so to hear that other people saw it that way as well is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool when you hear how people perceive you sometimes. So I think I sent you the picture of that. It was pretty cool. All right, let's get on
That's right, you did.
macroalgae.
Yeah.
All right. So you aquascaped at ReefStock Denver. What was your initial reaction when you were told about the macroalgae aquascaping competition?
Oh, I was excited. First of all, just to be able to just to be able to travel to go to an event, and then Aquascape is always a great time. So I'm always looking forward to it. But then to have it be like a macroalgae escaping contest, um, that's something I really hadn't heard of until now, and it was a really cool event. I was really excited to come in and see what I could do.
Yeah, I think for this to be as far as we know, the first competition of this time, to have someone or of this type, to have someone of your caliber doing the aquascaping, I think really, hopefully, points to the fact that macroalgae is going to become more popular. I know what you guys created was just absolutely incredible, and I was blown away.
Oh, and shout out to Dennis and Shelby too. I mean, their takes were incredible as well. I really enjoyed both of their escapes, and I spent a lot of time looking at them. And the more I looked at them, the more I loved them. They both killed it too. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to put that out there. Congrats guys. They were great
Yeah, I think
escapes.
everybody did such an incredible job. Like the more I looked at it, the more things I saw in everybody's tank. I don't know. I'm always amazed that people are able to judge these things and actually rank them because they're so different and so unique and so pretty. I think we're blanking. I'm blanking on the third judge. We were talking earlier. We know it was Mike Sinsky judged, Julian Sprung judged, and I can't remember for the life of me who the third judge was. We'll have to.
Did Raj?
Was it Raj?
Did I think it might have been.
Oh, that's probably why I forgot. He's so memorable. Um, but yeah, like I would love to talk to them also about how they go about judging these things. But I think everybody was like what, like a point to 4 points away from each other. Like it was a very close competition, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
All right. So, as far as the competition is concerned, like one of the things I like to talk about on the live streams is if there's anybody who is competing, like things to kind of think about or be prepared for. Uh, can you talk a little bit about the setup of the competition and how prepared you were for that beforehand?
I'm so lately I've been like very in the moment kind of a person. I didn't prepare whatsoever. I feel like when you're prepared for nothing, you're ready for everything. And so that's how I went about it this time. Just like I do with other contests, I come in with no expectations, and I feel like I'm just here to watch it all play out. So
Yeah, I think
I let my thoughts kind of just speak to me as they come.
I think I think one of the things was so we wanted to use reef rock for this, but they wanted us to also provide some Ciru rock, and that's what you used, right?
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you guys did. The other thing I was really happy about was me, Shelby, and Dennis were there in the morning, and they both were like, yeah, we both decided to use the reef rock, and so I was able to access all of the series so guilt free. Like I didn't feel like I was impeding on anybody's process or anything. I could just use all of it to my heart's desire. So that was really lucky for me too. I'm glad it worked out that way. That they both wanted to use the reef rock, and then I could just
I will
have at it.
say like one thing that we have always talked about on this live stream is you kind of have to use what you have. We
Mhm.
were supposed to have 120 pounds of Ciru, but we only had 40 pounds of Ciru. The order showed 120. Our girl who packed it was certain she had done 120 pounds, and but only 40 showed up. So it was very lucky that you were the only one who wanted to use it, because
Yeah, yeah,
and it's like one of those things. Like it is what it is. Like this is what we have. So it worked out very well for everybody.
yeah. It was fortunate.
So I took a picture right as you were getting started. Hey everybody. Um, took a picture right as you were getting started Do you know what you were doing right here? I don't think you even had any rock
Uh,
out
so,
yet.
yeah, it looks like I was just smoothing out the sand in
Okay,
there.
so you put the sand in
So I start
first.
out, yeah, most of the time, because I like to have like a little bit of cushion underneath the rock so that you don't have any concentrated single points of pressure. The other thing is I like to play with elevation a lot. So having that sand in there helps me adjust the rocks to the exact height that I want.
Huh, that's interesting. So in the saltwater side, we tend to do the rock first and then do the sand because we have a lot of animals that like to dig in it and we don't want a rock to suddenly
Yeah,
fall, but that actually makes a lot of sense. Just a thin layer to so you don't have any big points.
yeah. And then I've been avoiding sand sifting creatures. Like I do it myself. I have this like little one of those pointer sticks, those neon pointer sticks, and I'll just use it to stir up the sand to
Oh, that's
keep the
smart.
color uniform. Yeah. Um, but that's just me.
All right. So we already taught you accidentally already taught a little bit about your vision going in. So you didn't really have a vision, right?
So here in the picture, you can kind of see like I've got all of the rocks laid out on the floor there, and that's basically how I start a lot of my projects. I'll lay out what I have available, and then I can kind of see, okay, these three rocks look good in this orientation. So how can I use those three puzzle pieces to kind of paint a picture? I mean, this really what I'm doing is I'm using the tank as a canvas, and I'm thinking of all of my hardscape materials as shapes, colors, and textures. And so it kind of transforms from a 3D image down to a 2D image, and it switches back and forth in my head constantly as a 3D and a 2D image because I'm working with these shapes. Um, each rock is a different shape, and so I kind of use that as a way to paint my picture.
That's really
So
interesting.
yeah, here you can kind of see how I've laid them all out on the floor, and I can see each shape on the floor and how I could put those shapes together to make.
It's really cool. I I I'm just blown away by anybody who's aquascaping. Like this little tank behind me, I thought I was going to do this really cool aquascape with it, and I realized very quickly I'm not talented in this way. I like to play around with it, but whenever I see your work, it's just incredible. I'm always like blown away by it. And the thought processes that you're going through when you're doing this, I'm super interested in. That 2D, 3D thing, could you repeat that again? Like, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, so it's like if we're looking at the tank here, it might as well be a 2D image for you, right? And so this triangle shape is a shape in my 2D image. This triangle shape down here is the shape in my image. And then so I am kind of thinking of it as like a drawing or a painting where if I put these two rocks in and then I have these gaps here, oh, I can take the macroalgae and throw some red into this kind of like shape or motion. And so um, this tank in my mind as I'm working on it, it's almost in like a superposition. If you think about like quantum physics, like it's in a superposition of being a 3D and 2D because while I'm looking at it right now, it's kind of like I'm thinking of it in terms of two dimensions because this is all we can see. But as I'm working on it, I'm able to move things toward me, away from me, and that changes the shape of that 2D image when I'm working in three dimensions. So it's kind of hard to explain, but it's always both in my head. And sometimes I have to flip back and forth to pick one of them temporarily to work, and then it switches back when I'm looking over the whole thing as an overview.
So some of the
My head's weird. It works
it,
in
it
mysterious
it
ways that
sounds like it
it's hard
works.
for me to describe.
I'm gonna go to the next picture I have for you. So some of the things that me and Shelby talk about in this live stream a lot is like golden ratio and the grid. Do you think about those kind of things when you're aquascaping, or?
I don't think about them specifically, but um, so if you want to break down my aquascaping into one single sentence, like as a one-liner, I'm basically just moving stuff around until I think it looks cool. And
I love it.
um, the so I'm not arranging things like, oh, here's the 1/3 point. I'm gonna shift this rock until it's right there in the 1/3 point. What I'm doing is I'm moving stuff until I think it's like it clicks in my head. I can move, click right there. That's where it should be. And then if you go back and analyze it, if you put that grid over the tank, just so happens everything is there on those lines. And that's just coincidental because I'm not trying to intentionally put them there. I'm putting things where I think it looks the best to me. Just so happens afterwards, when you go back in post, uh, they align that way. So I would say my work is very, golden ratio heavy, or uh, yeah, it definitely fits into that category. But I'm not doing it intentionally.
And a lot of that I think is
So
like psychology,
it's the
right?
aesthetics in my heart and my soul, what it feels in that moment is what's most important. And then
Yeah, I think some of that like
the
golden
golden ratio
ratio and
reveals
the
itself.
grid stuff is not like something that theory has placed on humans. It's one of those things, if you study what humans like, it tends to be that they like these things. So, like, naturally, when
Yeah.
you study something that's aesthetically pleasing, a lot of times it's going to hit those different techniques. So, there might be something to not doing it intentionally, but it just naturally going in that direction.
But I think it's really good for people to have that tool, because like when you're working on something and you really don't know which direction to go, or you don't really know what to do, you can rely on those things and you can lean on those things to help you uh, go in the right direction. And maybe it's that just one little push that could get the momentum rolling for the rest of the skate. So
So, maybe if you're stuck or something,
I
something to think
definitely,
about.
yeah.
So, in this
But
picture, I think I
what
was
it
coming.
really boils down to,
Sorry, say that again.
oh, oh, I was just gonna say really quick, what it really boils down to is balance. So, you know, for me, balance isn't straight down the middle. It's having like a good amount of some stuff to be dominant, and then a presence of it again, but in less, so that it doesn't, they're not fighting over dominance. So one has slightly more and one has slightly less than half. One has slightly more than half, so that there's this good dynamic between the two. You can see that one is really, you don't have to be confused about where your attention's going. I think it's what it really comes down
Shelby said your tank was incredible. It stood out. It definitely did.
to.
In this photo, I think I was over here like harassing you and asking you questions. At this point, do you remember how you were feeling at this point?
At that point, I was feeling really good because I think what happened was I found that all of the stones that I was working with, they all looked good in left to right, pointing left to right. And so I just did that with the substrate, and it just kind of lined them all up. And I was just really feeling it. At that point, I was like, oh yeah, this is turning out
That was
nice.
exactly
And
what you were
so
like. You're like, I don't even need macroalgae. It looked really good without anything
I
at that point.
I honestly loved that hardscape with, just as a hardscape only. I could see myself putting some like shell dweller, African cichlids or something in there, or some other cool fish. I mean, you can do anything with a hardscape only tank, literally anything. So um, yeah, I mean, I liked it with the background too, but I was really feeling that hardscape. Um, just from every angle, it looks really good to me. Even like down the sides, you could stare up that valley that was going up. It was really cool.
So this is, I think, a photo you took of it.
Mhm.
So I feel like you didn't really have any challenges this competition. Like everything just seemed to go well for you this competition. Was there something Any challenging parts at all for you, or was it just pretty? It just happened really organically for you.
Mm, I guess the only real challenge is, I didn't have any glue or anything. So everything that I had to work with is being held there by gravity. So that challenge is that, we didn't have the opportunity to really make any overhangs or anything too vertical or too high. Uh, you had to rely on that. I had to rely on that slope to get me that height that I wanted. But besides that, I guess everything just went really smoothly. But I think that's also a reflection of perspective in the way that I think. Um, it's only a problem if you make it one. So I was in a really good spirit, really good mood, and so even if there were true problems, I didn't see them that way, and so I wouldn't be able to list off any challenges for you right now because I was just happy to see everybody. I was happy to be there competing. You
It
know,
is funny how when you're
it's all about
in a
perspective.
good mood already, how things just seem to happen well. Like, because you
Yeah,
don't see them as challenges then, right? Going
yeah,
back to the
exactly.
glue, if someone, let's say someone decides that they're going to enter a competition like this, is glue something that's typically provided, or is that something that Aquascaper would have to bring typically?
Now, usually we're bringing our own glue and things like that. Um, though it would be nice if it was provided because, with flying, I can't travel. Like my bottle of super glue is it's like this big. So unless I'm checking a bag, which is still scary to check a bag of,
Super glue.
with a half gallon of super glue. Um, yeah. So I just decided not to travel with it, and I didn't want to check a bag. I just did carry on, and so the other challenge is you can't bring your own tools either because you can't put like scissors on a carry
You
on.
can't bring a
So
giant
um,
sledgehammer.
no. So having materials tools provided would be, a great help. But yeah, usually it's not.
Usually it's not. So that's something that someone, if they're doing this the first couple of times, I've seen that happen where they don't realize they have to bring stuff like that and they're panicked trying to find it or trying to borrow from other competitors, which most of the time, the competition I've seen anyway, other competitors are happy to share. But that's definitely
Anybody watching? Let's stop real quick. Anybody watching, please help your fellow skater. I know it's a contest. I know it's a competition. Which, by the way, this one was really great because me, Dennis, and Shelby, we all got along great. We all shared stuff. We were very nice to each other. But honestly, guys, just think about it. If that's what you needed to win, then you've got bigger problems. And so I really just want to take this moment to encourage everybody to really help your people out. Even if it's a contest, your neighbors.
yeah.
Winning despite having, like despite me helping my competition feels even better. And honestly, we shouldn't be, you know, stabbing each other and being all fierce. It's not. It shouldn't be that way. This is a hobby that's surrounded by the love of nature. That's deeply rooted in love. So let's not forget that.
I agree with that. I think my biggest draw to this hobby in general is the community. And I know there's always some people that aren't community minded, but for the most part, most of the people I've interacted with, like you, other people like you, we're all drawn to each other because we are community minded. But I definitely love the interconnection, the being able to communicate with each other, the sharing of ideas. And sometimes we don't all do things the same way, and like that's not a bad thing. I think it's just all different points to learn and to put in our toolbox. So I think that's a very good point to make.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's see. Do I have any other photos that I want to show? Oh, this I thought was really interesting. So you spent all this
Oh,
time on this
okay.
hardscape, and then you had to fill it up. Can you explain what you're doing
Yeah,
here?
it's kind of funny because when I filled it up, it was like super, super clear. But then, and this is okay, let me backtrack. So that's why I have all those paper towels in there
Wait, so that's
to kind
paper
of
towels.
minimize
Back up
water
further.
movement.
You put paper towels in your tank.
Yeah, I filled the whole tank with paper towels, at least the bottom, like the bottom layer. And this is so that when we're filling it up, we get minimal water movement. All I'm trying to do is to have the water take up the volume in the tank, but I don't necessarily want it moving at all when it's filling, not to disrupt the substrate and things like that. And so what this does is it helps you get crystal clear fill. And it did, but my tank still ended up getting cloudier than both of theirs, and they didn't do this. So it kind of came back and bit me. But I think it was just because of my hardscape materials and the sand not being washed and all of that. Um, but yeah, I did this so that I could get a crystal clear fill, and the tank did eventually clear up somewhat. It just didn't clear up as much as I wanted to, even on the last day. But that's okay.
Um, let's see. I'm trying to pull up the picture again your of the finished product. All right, so you won, right?
I did.
How did you feel when you found out you won?
Well, I mean, I was happy. I I was just really grateful for the opportunity to make something that I really visually like. Like I would say that the hardscape on this one was one of my strongest, if not my strongest that I've done before. And
We
so
were very happy to
yeah,
play a role in
I,
that.
and I didn't. Okay, so I don't want to downplay the victory or anything. It's just that I didn't feel um like a big sense of achievement or something like that, just because that wasn't what it was about for me. It was just to be there and to create. So since it wasn't like getting that first place or winning wasn't like a really big priority or something that was so important to me, I guess when it was announced, uh, if I had to be super honest, it wasn't something that I felt super strongly. It was like, oh, okay, great, I'm happy, but that wasn't what meant the world to me that week.
I do find that in a lot of different things, sports, art, other things, people who get really competitive a lot of times lose sight of the enjoyment of it. And when you can make sure that you're enjoying what you're doing and you're doing it just sheerly for the enjoyment, other people are going to uh, get pulled into that feeling as well. So I could see how that would be the case, that you being taking that approach would actually push you towards an advantage for winning. So macroalgae can be tricky. Do you have any advice that you could share with anybody for someone who might want to create a similar setup?
Um, I'm not sure because in my opinion, I don't really find it that tricky.
Okay.
I'm just dosing like regular Planet Tank fertilizers right now. I guess it's about finding that balance. It's like one challenge that I find is just like any Planet Tank, the balance between light, fertilizing, that kind of thing. But if you're doing a lot of water changes, that kind of goes away to some degree. So I'd say lots of water changes.
Okay. So for your competition tank, if you had had more time, like if you were coming home, this was a tank you were doing that was going to be in your home or at ADG, is there anything you would have changed about it?
Nope.
Just perfectly happy.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's the end of my questions.
Yeah. I don't think I would have changed anything.
Is there anything that
Awesome.
you want to add before I close up? We're at our 30-minute mark, so I try and wrap it up pretty quickly
Yeah.
for everybody.
Just thank you for having me on. It was a fun conversation, and again, I just want to shout out Dennis and Shelly for being really gracious competitors and being good friends of mine. And thank you everybody for watching.
Hip, this was such a great conversation. I'm so glad that you joined me. I always love talking to you. Can you tell people where they could find more of your work?
Sure. I'm on Instagram and YouTube as Ichthyophile. That's ICHTHYO_FILE. Means fish lover, but then I did a pun and turned it into file because you different. And so yeah, ichthyophile, fish lover on
I'll make sure
YouTube.
that we put that in the notes for the episode too. And like Fish Fam Link
I
said,
would appreciate that.
thank you everyone for watching. Make sure you follow us and for more aquascaping content, and make sure you like and join our Aqua Natural Facebook club. I think that that's all I have for today. So thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget. Oh, same sentence again. I'm reading now. All right. Thank you guys. I will see you next